Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Platform Analytics Academy. First thing we'll talk about is obviously, I'm sure some of you have noticed the name change that we have going on. Just know that we're still here for you to provide, performance analytics and reporting. We just have a name change and we wanted to make sure to better reflect that we aren't just performance analytics. We'll continue to cover anything analytics related in the platform, including PA, reports, and user experience analytics. So that's why the name changed, but just know that we're still here for you in the same way that we have been in the past. We're just going to add more great content for you. So going forward, this will be known as Performance Analytics Academy. Some real quick logistics that we'll kind of go over real quick. Nothing new here. This is for you. So we try to bring, better understanding and practical guidance and fresh ideas to you through these academy sessions. This is also recorded and it will be made public via the community and also on our YouTube channel. So just be aware of that. If you decide to ask any questions or anything like that, and your company may or may not have an issue with you being a part of something that's going to be public, just be aware of that. And then also we do have Q&A, so feel free to ask as many questions as you would like. We do ask that you put them into the Q&A window rather than the chat window. We do have people here monitoring the questions, myself and Dan Kane, and of course Adam, who is here today, is going to be actually presenting the content, but we'll all see the questions. So if there's questions that we can answer while the presentation is actually happening, we'll try to take care of those via typing those answers out in the Q&A. If there are questions that we need to ask during the presentation, we'll have moments where we'll stop and ask those as well. And then any questions that are asked that are unrelated to the specific topic of today, and if we have time at the end of those, we'll try to get to those as well. Try to get as many of those as we possibly can. So again, my name is Thomas Davis, and I'm the host today, and we have Adam Stout. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with him. If you are not, Adam always brings great knowledge and great information to his presentations. So with that, we're actually going to talk about leveraging time series with performance analytics today. And again, Adam Stout is going to do that. So Adam, whenever you're ready to take over, we're ready.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. So I am going to switch over. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We should have renamed this. I should have renamed this. This is really leveraging time series with platform analytics, because we are going to cover more than performance analytics in this. So a couple areas we're going to start out with. So first of all, we're going to talk about reports. How do we do time series in reports? Make sure we cover our bases there. Then we're going to move into the data collector and some things we want to think about as we're collecting our performance analytics data. How do we set ourselves up to apply different time series? And then we're going to get into the nuance or the more detail about performance analytics time series. But before we get there, we want to talk about how do we do these things in reports and how do we do them? How do we configure the data collector? Let's talk about reports first. So first of all, if we have data in the system, we don't need PA to do something with time. We have time series reports. So if I go into the report designer, I can go in and I have 5 different time series that I can use, and I can mix and match and do use different data sets on there. I can trend by specific dates. I can use standard calendar or a business calendar. I can group things by week, month, by date, and then I can use all the aggregates, sum, count, min, max, whatever I want to use. To come through. A couple of really key things here. Again, there are multiple ways of using these time series. You have to have a date. Your data has to be date-based. So I can do incident creation, incidents resolved, changes filed, employees onboarded. But I am looking at the date, right? The date they were onboarded, the date the case was resolved. I have to have a date in my record. Very, very key for reporting. And it is querying all the data live. That's important note. We'll talk more about that later, but it is going to query, what is it now? Always, what is it now? So that's fine if we're doing creation date, probably close date for incidents, but it can be a little off if I'm looking at resolve date, and my resolve date might change, right? Something can be unresolved and then re-resolved and unresolved, re-resolved. Well, those dates change, and we're only getting what the current data is showing, because again, the data is in the system and there's that date. So we have time series that you can also use Other charts. There are other charts that will understand dates and time that are different than time series. So the best example of that are bar charts. We're seeing the bar chart here, and then also pies and donuts will handle this as well. But there's no time on there, right? I'm not grouping by, or I'm not showing a week on my. I didn't actually put the example of the chart on here, which I should have put in here. But in my chart type, I'm not showing this as the months linearly or the quarters or the years. I'm showing a bucket of how long we are from that date. How long has it been? So I can do that with again, donuts and pies and the bar charts. And if you see at the bottom, it's a little small, but I have incidents from the same day, 2 days, 2 to 5 days ago, 5 days. The way we create those are report ranges, right? And they're the buckets that's the duration between that date and today. It's got some issues, I think. I don't know if we've resolved these actually to go forward in time. This is designed really to look at incidents and how old they are. How old are my incidents? And group those. And then I can still stack and do everything I do with reports. But the key thing that I wanted to bring up is that we can use report ranges to create these buckets and modify them. You can only define one report range per table or per view. And the views help us kind of get a few more on a table if we need to. But there's only one that's possible. You can configure, do I want to see if I'm looking at incidents, I'm probably going to be looking at minutes and then hours, and hopefully not too many days in resolution. If I'm looking at problems, I'm going to be looking at days and weeks. But again, defined per table, and they're defined by report admins, right? Admin can certainly do it, but a report admin can define those and redefine those. If you haven't looked at report ranges, they actually let us do a few other things besides just time. They handle times, but they can also work with some choice lists and other things to group things together. So really powerful. And then again, with the time series and report ranges, there's a lot we can do just with reports. Okay, now we're going to move to the data collection. And data collection. All right. So with the data collection, I want to establish this. We talk a lot about this in some of the previous Academy sessions about the data collector, but I did want to bring up that when I'm collecting data, if I'm collecting daily data or weekly data or monthly data or annual for that matter, we want to make sure the period is ended. There's some real exceptions in there, but I want to make sure we talk about these general guidelines. So if I'm collecting daily data, the day needs to end before I have it. I can't tell you how many incidents came in today at noon today. I can tell you how many came in by noon, but not for the day, right? I have to wait till the day's over. So often what we're going to see is our daily data being run just after midnight. And it varies, but the closer after midnight, as close you can get. Again, we got to worry about what else is going on in the system to that. Now, midnight, there's 26 different midnights in the world, maybe a little bit more than that. So which one? It depends how you operate your business. And that's true for all of these things. So for ServiceNow, we're based in the Bay Area. We generally operate our day as Pacific time. So I'm going to set it to run at 12:30, 12:15, maybe 1:30 a.m. Pacific time. I don't want to run it at 1 a.m. New York time because my day hasn't ended, right? So you do have to pick a time, just like we were closing our financial books. There is one time when your quarter ends, right? Even if that rotates. So we're going to run that right after the day. Same thing happens for the week. If I'm running a weekly number, the weekly number, I want to run the first, after the week is completed. Now, really important note here, the day that the week starts is a setting in your instance. There is a preference, and I think I forgot in the end links, but we'll make sure that it's in the posting about what that preference is called. But you'll see it control everything in your reporting. Does your day start on Sunday or does it start on Monday? I think if we asked everybody, we should have asked a poll for who's on here, we're going to get different responses, right? Sunday, Monday. And it's even possible that your organization says, no, our week starts on Thursday, right? So that way, just for whatever reason that comes through. So if I'm in the US and I'm going to say my week goes from Sunday to Saturday, then I'm going to have my job for the week run on Sunday, run on the first day after the previous week is ended. And the same thing for the month. The month, I'm going to run that on the first. I'm probably going to run my monthly jobs on the first, maybe on the second, because it's actually, I can push it to the second. I can run it later on the day in the first. I just have to make sure that the month ends. And with that, I just want to take a quick break and see if we have any questions about reports or the data collector before we move forward.
Yeah, Adam, none have came in, but I actually have one. So based on everything that you just shared with us, so how do you pick using reports or performance analytics for this information?
So it does depend. It depends on what we want to look at to come through. So if I just need to have something really quick, I'm going to go to reports generally. But reports, one of the things we talked about is it's live data only, and it has to have a date. PA doesn't have those constraints. It absolutely can do those. So my incoming rate, I absolutely can do PA or reporting. But if I'm looking at something like how many active incidents do we have? Well, there's no date for active, right? I can't query that in reporting to get that right. So I can use performance analytics, because performance analytics will take a snapshot of the data of what's active today, what's active today. Just ask every day what's active today. And we actually are going to use dates, not states, to figure that out. But I can do what's active today, and I don't have to have a date. So I can do that in PA, and it will save those counts for me going forward. So if I have to do that, I'm definitely going to go PA. And then there's one more thing that I'm considering, and that is performance and what comes through. So I wanted to talk about the performance benefit of PA, and it's kind of interesting that PA, we think about performance problems, but actually can be a performance benefit to my system and give me better overall health. So the example I have is I want to have the incoming rate of incidents for the past 2 years. And in my organization, we have 500,000 incidents a year. Decent sized organization. I got 500,000 incidents that are coming in per year. So I have 1 million incidents to look at. If I run a report and I want to get this chart, I have to look at a million data points. And because I'm not looking at active as true, I got to scan based off of the date. So if I have an index on incoming rate or on the sys created date, I can scan the index, but I still have to scan 1 million records. If I don't have an index on that, or let's say I want to do it on closed and I don't have an index on closed, I might be scanning my entire incident table, right? Millions and millions of records to come back with this report. And if I have, that's a lot of data to scan, right? That comes through. And depending on how many people are looking at this, I have a dashboard that has this report. I might be doing that 10 times a day. I might be doing it 100 times a day, because it's on every manager's dashboard about what their incoming rate is. Millions and billions of data points scanned. If I did the same thing in performance analytics, and I had a daily indicator, I only need 730 records that I'm scanning. And I don't care what system you have or what you're doing, it is faster to pull back data from 730 records than it is from 1 million, right?
Hey, Adam,
Yeah.
we got a question that came in that's along these lines. I thought maybe you could answer it live, because you're talking about this right now. Some of the content pack indicators have valid for frequency set to monthly, and their daily data collections. So can you speak to where that combination makes sense?
We're going to get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
To go through, because there's a few variations of that, and I want to make sure we cover each of those variations. And
Awesome.
why you
Okay,
would do that,
perfect.
why you wouldn't do that. But yeah, great question to come in.
Okay, thanks, Pierre. We'll get to you in a bit.
Yeah. And then if I don't cover what it is, then let's make sure we bring that up to answer your specific case in there. I think we'll get that one. So again, the performance is much better. And this is with the daily indicator. If I have a monthly indicator, I have 24 data points I have to pull back, right? And so again, at the end of the day, there's a database, right, in the background. Do I want to scan 1 million records, or do I want to use an index lookup for 24, right? It will be faster. It'll be faster. And also, when I look at the million, it's just redundant. I mean, when it comes down to it, the incoming rate is never going to change for yesterday, right? It shouldn't change. It's not going to change for yesterday. So with performance analytics in the daily, we're just looking at what happened today, what happened today. So once a day, we ask what happened today, right? So it's a very small query, and we store it. If I don't do that, now I'm looking at what happened in November of 2021. I'm going to be looking at that every time somebody asks this question for the next 2 years, right? You're looking at the same data, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again at the expense of system performance. If it happens once and I need to do a report, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with it. But if it's something we're going to be doing every day, it's going to be on every manager's dashboard, and I want them to see it, PA is definitely the way I want to go, right? So if I can't query it live, then I have to go to PA. And even if I can, I'm probably still going to go to PA if it's something that I'm going to need to do repeated times, right? I also then can use it in KPIs, and there's lots of other benefits that come through it. But just even purely on performance, PA can sometimes be the push on why we want to come over here. Okay. So we've talked about reporting and we've talked about the data collector in a little bit. And again, we'll get a little bit more detail about the frequencies between those. But now we want to talk about why I can't remove subtitle goes here. That's an issue that I'm gonna have to talk to myself about. For performance analytics time series, this is the meat of what we wanted to discuss. And I want to make sure everybody understands it. When I have a daily or weekly or monthly indicator, that's what I have. That's the unit I'm grabbing. But with a daily, particularly with a daily indicator, but also weekly and monthly, we can aggregate those together some more. And I wanted to walk through what the time series do and how we can handle them. So there's 4 different types, the 4 basic types of aggregates that we have that sit on top of those specifically daily indicators. And then the types will sit on the other types as well. So by period. So by period is by week sum, by week average, by month sum, by month average, all of those, right? By something. And what this shows me is how many happened in that time, right? What was the metric for January, for December? What was the average SLA attainment for, or what was the average SLA attainment in November, right? Compared November this month, or compared December and January together by period. And the period must be complete. That's really key. It must be complete. We have a variation of that, which is the partial periods, and we'll talk more about those as well, about what that means. But we have the by period groupings, and then we have to date. And to date's a very interesting one as well. So I'm not going to see January data. I'm not going to see a January number, but I want to see the month to date, and often the year to date. All of those groupings. A big difference between these I want to draw out. We're going to see some pictures in just a moment. By period is 1 number per month. To date is 1 number per day for the period, right? Then it just keeps changing. And then we have running, and running is 1 period per day as well, but it has a look back and it is smoothing it out. The to date ones, by period is the most common one we see, right? What's the January number? The to date is interesting to see some of the trends and the velocity as we're going through. And then the running smooth things out. And so running is very underused, but particularly if I'm looking at things like incoming incident rates, we have a shark fin. I have a shark fin all the time, right? The shark fin being during the week, it's like this. And then at the end, it goes down, right? On the weekends, I have less incidents. I don't want to draw too many conclusions from that. It's actually very distracting for me to see that. So I'm going to put a running total in there. I want to see the running 7 days, because that's going to let me see if I'm actually drifting up or drifting down, and not let the weekend boil me over. Okay, so let's go on to it. All right, so I alluded to it a little bit, but the most important character in performance analytics is a plus sign. That is how we denote, is it a partial, is it by period or a partial period? Do we allow partial periods? And what this means, I'm going to bring up an example to talk about. This is the same data. So I'm going to be counting something. It doesn't matter what I'm counting. And I have a bi-week sum. So bi-week sum, there's no plus sign. You notice there's no plus sign at the top of this. And so what it does is it will only include complete periods. So daily doesn't matter because we only capture by day. You either have a day or you don't. But when we're getting into weeks, months, quarters, years, there's partial periods. And it's not just current periods. So sometimes we talk about it, and I'm guilty of this too, and I'll say it's the current period. Do you want to show the current period or not? It is actually partial periods. So in this case, I have 3 weeks and I have one every week. If I put in a bi-week sum, I'm looking over at this column over on the right, I'm going to see that there's no value for that first week. And there's no value for the second week, both of them, because they're not complete. We don't have data for them. The only value that I'm going to get here is that middle week where the value is 7, because I'm summing up by the week. Now, if I look at the same data and I add a plus, again, 1 character, I'm going to get some different results. So now my bi-week sum is going to show me 3 for the first week, 7 and 4. Is that right? Depends what you want. Depends what you want to see. A lot of times partial period is fine. But if you're trying to close out a number, don't show me a number until it's done, right? SLA attainment, maybe we can adjust and to go through, and a partial period is valid, but sometimes it's not. The number of P1 record, the P1 incidents in the month, maybe I want the month to date, maybe that's okay, but be careful, right? Because I don't want to say towards the end of the month, this is my January number. I don't have a January number. And particularly that leading one, right? The first one on here, 3 is not valid. Don't average 3, right? Like it's something that's off. And related to this, the value when nil, the value when nil isn't going to affect this, the individual dates. there's some logic in there that's checking, did we collect or not? And so as long as there's a 0 on the main collector, I think we're going to understand there was data collected. In this case, it's detecting there was no data collected, right? This is the global, this is my global number, the breakdown. The value window really affects breakdowns when it comes down to it. And there's some more nuance in here. I think we get into that data collector one, the data collector incident, but we don't store blanks, except we do on the global number to know that we did collect something and we didn't find any of the breakdowns when it comes down to it. So the value in nil should not affect this at all. But you do have to have some collection running. Generally, we're going to detect there was no collection or there was a collection. All right, pictures. So the thing I want to draw attention to is all of the examples in this presentation are the exact same data set, the absolute 100% exact same data set. I generated data that went from January 2022 through July. Oh, I have it on here. I don't have to look through July 25th, 2023. Right. So we have data for all of that. And then I applied each of these time series. So this presentation will be posted. There's a KB article that has similar screenshots as well. And what I want you to notice is that graph. Notice the graph over on the right. Again, the exact same data tells many, many different stories. So my running sums at the top smooth it out, and you can see how much they smooth it out by. So again, if I'm looking at something like that really is like daily incoming rate, and my cycle is daily, I'm probably going to smooth that out to be 7 days. That allows me to get rid of a weekly shark fin where I have a spike or a drop on the weekends. If I have something that's monthly and I don't want the monthly, I'm not going to change my process. I'm not going to hire new people because on the first of the month, we get a little backlogged, right? We'll solve that. That's okay. Or towards the end of the month, we get a big spike in things that need to happen. Maybe I'll look at that, but generally I'm going to staff so that within if I'm meeting all my SLAs, I'm not going to restaff just because I have a bump. So I want to see if I'm trending up. Then I'm going to use my 30-day running sum to come through. So again, all the same data. And in the 7, 28, 30-day running sums, you can see that it changes, right? The order of magnitude varies, right? And how much I'm smoothing it out by. But then as we get down, it gets more interesting to me as we come through. So those lines smooth very differently. So that depends on the process and what's important. And then I'm going to get to those week to date, month to date, quarter to date sums. And you can see there's a score every day, right? You can see a bump up all the time and then drop. It tells a very different story from what comes through. So again, all of these are daily scores. I am going to have a score for every day, but it's wild that at the top, we have a score of 1100, 1200. And then a week to date, I might have a score of 66, right? What is important about this process? What is important about this KPI? And what do I need to convey? That's what we're going to focus in on. And that's how we're going to choose which one. They are not all the same. Very, very data dependent. And it relates to you understanding what your data, what you're trying to show, what do you want to see, and what do you not want to, and what do you want to not see because it's going to be distracting. Okay, so those are the daily ones. Again, all the same data, exactly the same data, but now we're going to roll it up and the week and greater scores, right? So I have my bi-week sum, my bi-month sum to come through. I cut off the dates here. Those were actually today. The thing that's important to note here as we go through, up at the top, we have the weeks. So this is actually from 23 because I collected data all the way going through July 25th, 2023. Looking forward, each week, I do have a score from week 28 and 29. But if you'll notice, week 28 and 29 don't have scores because they don't really exist to come through. And a couple of things I want to call out. So again, we see some of that static to go through in the week, and my weeks, I do have highs and lows in my week. I have my months and my highs and lows. Notice that the bi-month sum and bi-month sum plus are different numbers because one's including the partial period of July and one is looking at my June number. This gets a bit weird because I am mixing weekly, monthly, and other numbers coming through. But the sum and the sum plus, the current score, the column score is the current score, is the latest score that we have. It's different for quarter and quarter, for month and month, because it's actually referring to a different month. Is it referring to Q1 or Q4? Is it referring to January or December? Right. So be aware of that. Big implications, whether or not you're saying I want the plus version or not the plus version. And then the other part I was going to call out is if I look at the by year, there's no chart at all. There's just no chart at all because I said no partial years, and I have partial years. So there actually is a data point in here that when you see the score, in this case, again, I'm looking at data from 2022 and 2023. So the 10,000 for the by year sum plus is the score for the 10,000 is for July 2023, or the year is 2023. The sum is from 2022. So wildly different numbers. And again, it depends on your KPI. Is this valid to look at a partial period or not? And I would go, if I was looking at incoming incident rates, it's not valid to look at the year number halfway through the year. If I wanted to do that, if that's what I wanted to see, I would not do by year at all. I would have my by year to show me year over year. I wouldn't do a by year sum plus with a partial period. I would go back to year to date, because then I get where I'm at, but I also see that trend, right? I see, well, we had a lot at the beginning of the year, and then it stabilized, or it was flat and then it went up. So the velocity tells me a lot of information that's coming through here. And we can see the by year to date sum is 10,000, right? The second, and actually the fiscal is the same in this case. So my two by year sums are showing me a line going up and where they're going. And if I did those as by year sum and by year sum plus, I don't see anything, right? So again, make sure you're picking the appropriate one to show what you want to show. And I want to have this big menu for you to see, what is it I'm trying to do? And I want running, because I need to flatten the curve. I don't want to get distracted by individual days. I want to get a whole number, or I want to see a running number that's adjusted. That's okay too. They all do different things. So make sure you have that chart about what is it you're trying to show, what is valid for this, and picking the appropriate one. All right, collection frequencies. This is the question that we had before. Yeah.
Hey, real quick before we go further. So a couple quick questions. One kind of goes back to something that you were speaking on earlier, but maybe you can just hit it real quick. So it says, when you run a report and have a filter to show data for last 30 days, for example, if there are 1 million records, does it scan all 1 million records to pull out the 30? So if that's all on the manager's dashboard, and does it scan 1 million records each time per manager? Is a PA a better alternative? And is there documentation that helps determine when to use PA versus report, which of course we can add on to the the presentation, we put it out there. But that's the question, is knowing when you should actually do it, and being able to have some documentation that tells us that.
Sure. So the reports there's a database backend and there's indexes on the database. So it depends. The manager, we're going to be dot walking to get the manager. So I don't know what's going to happen to come through. Most of the stuff runs split second anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? Particularly if I'm not applying filters and dynamic filters and I want real things in the last 30 days. If I'm querying 30 days, like incoming rate for the 30 days, then there's probably an index, and it's something we can check. You can check on your instance in the data dictionary. Is there an index on sys created by? But if I want to do something like resolved by, resolve time, right? Show me the number of incidents resolved. Well, there may not be an index on that, and then I have to scan data. Now you're applying other filters like the assign to manager or the assignment group. Well, all references are already indexed, so that might be good. But if I want to start dot walking, then just like in any database, when you start adding joins, your indexes are used, but what's the performance? I don't know. It can have an impact on it. So if I'm not having a performance problem and I'm getting what I want, I'm okay with the report. I'm okay with the report. I don't want you to have to do PA just for that, but be aware, your report might have a more performance impact. So you may move over. The reason I'm going to move to PA is actually those other factors that come through, in that the data doesn't have a date, my active incidents. And that's what we're going to go with, right? Active incidents I cannot do based on current date, because I need to know what it was then. So I'm going to move to PA. And so active incidents is already going to be there. And if I'm going to do incoming and closed as well, maybe if I'm going to have to set up PA, why don't I just use PA for everything, right? Mixing and matching has got some other issues that come through. So if I'm going to go for PA for one, I'm probably going to go PA for all. And generally there's something that's going to drive me to PA for one, right? So my tendency is go to PA. And then the same thing, if I'm going to look at my incoming rate, is that a KPI? Do I need a target? Do I want to let KPI signals? So we talked about smoothing here and what I see, but we have another session on KPI signals that where PA will be looking at the data to look for outliers, right? It's going to be examining your process to alert you on what's going on. Some really powerful analytics going on in the background to tell you what do you need to look at. Extremely important when I don't need to look at my assignment group. I need to look at 100 assignment groups. If I'm looking at 100 things, I'm going to miss something. So I want to have the instance looking for me. So I'm going to move KPI signals. To get KPI signals, I need to have PA. So I'm going to be in PA. So we're already in PA. If I just need a quick report and I need to pull up 30 days of incidents, I'm going to stick with reporting, right? So we talk about this more in some of the training that goes through. I think Essentials even hits part of it, that when you want to go to PA, you're going to want to go to PA, but you don't always need PA. As I go through, I actually don't like to go to PA just for performance. There are a couple times where I need to do it to come through, but I don't like to move just for performance. Generally, all the other benefits are going to let me do it. And if I don't need those other things, and I need to be super interactive, I'm going to stick with reporting. And the other reason I'm going to stay with reporting over PA. So I've talked a lot about why I go from reporting to PA, because PA has some more setup, has some more administrative overhead than reporting. But the use case where I will actually give up PA and the benefits of KPIs to stick with reporting is when I'm looking for things to do and the actual tasks. PA is meant to be looking at the process, looking at the KPIs. I'm looking at aggregates. I'm measuring groups, right? Performance management. Reporting is ideal for what do I need to do next? All right. Do I have a problem right now and it changes minute by minute? I'm going to be in reporting. So if I just want to know, if I want to see the incidents that have come in today and the state and the active incidents today, because I'm going to take action on those, I'm probably going to stay in reporting. PA will show it to me too if I collect the snapshots. But if I'm looking for very tactical intraday, I will probably stay in reporting. If you're looking at monthly trends and you're not doing that, then we're going to be drifting over to PA is probably a better fit. Again, we'll talk about more about this in there's more discussion about this in the training, but it's just multi-factor. I can't tell you definitely want to do this or you definitely don't want to do it until we're in the major extremes, right? Again, I need it minute by minute. I'm going to be in reporting and I want to look at months and months. Then I'm going to be, and I need a KPI on it. I'm going to be in PA.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Another question is going back to what you were talking about prior to that question. So time series do great things, but what if I only need monthly numbers?
So let's talk about that. So a great example. And then that also relates to what on earth, why do I have monthly indicators that are collected daily? And so explicitly those use cases are what comes in. I want to talk about those. So we've talked about the reporting period is what is what I want to see? What is it I am trying to see? The indicator frequency is the indicator source and indicator frequently. What is the unit of measure? The collection is how often I run the job. And then what time series do I need to apply to take my indicator and collection? I apply a time series to show me the reporting period. So if I'm looking for daily, right, I want to have the daily number of active incidents. Well, I want daily. The indicator is going to be daily, and I'm going to collect it daily, right? Again, just after midnight, but I'm going to collect it daily, and I don't have a time series. That's by far the most common thing we see in PA, right? Daily, daily, daily. My business moves fast. But there absolutely are cases beyond that. So the next case I have is that I need a weekly or monthly number. Sorry, a weekly and monthly number. I want to measure my incoming rate by week as I'm going, and then I'm going to measure it by month as well. We look at the quarterly review, we do our annual review, and we look at the incoming rate as we go through. And so if I need weekly and monthly, a really key nuance in here that comes in is that weeks don't go into months evenly. They simply don't go into months evenly. So I can take a monthly number and make it quarterly because months do fall into quarters. Months do fall into quarters, quarters fall into years. So I can take month and go month, quarter, year. But if I collect weekly, that's as far as I can go. Weeks don't go into months and quarters evenly. So if I need weekly and monthly, even if I never need daily, but I need weekly and monthly, I will have an indicator of daily. I will collect daily, and I will apply the time series of by week and by month, right? Probably the plus, but by week and by month. So I'm going to apply the time series to get my only weekly numbers, my only monthly numbers. I'm never going to show anybody the daily numbers, but I collect them to come through. this is generally what we're going to do. There are some cases where I actually will end up setting up 2 different indicator sources and 2 different indicators to collect a weekly and a monthly one. If I have some major performance things that come in, or wildly different breakdowns that I need, then I might do them separately. But generally, my go-to is I'm just going to collect daily, and I'll apply those time series to get what I want. The next one we have in here is also a very simple one. I have a monthly number. I need a monthly number. I'm going to collect it monthly. I'm going to define it monthly and collect it monthly, and I don't have to apply in time series. Monthly, monthly, monthly. There's a lot of these too. It's just a lot of these. At the end of the day, we'll get the month. But then this is the trigger one. This is the one that we were just asking about, is and the out of the box one that exists. I only want a monthly number. I only want a daily, doesn't matter to me, but I want to have this month intact. I want to know what it is this month. So as we're going. So to do that, we want monthly, including the current month. We're going to have a monthly indicator, and then the collection is going to be daily. So I'm actually going to collect January 31 times, and then it'll switch to February. So I'm still going to collect. The job is going to think it's a daily job, and we are recollecting a whole month's worth of data to come through. This is important. These monthly indicators are important if I'm going to do a count distinct, right? Or a min and max for that matter, right? But a count distinct, I can't distinct the number of callers, the number of distinct callers in a month. I can't do that day by day because I can't add them up. But I can collect the monthly number, get the distinct values, the distinct number of callers, and I can just refresh that every day. Okay, so that's what we do see that, where I don't care about the distinct number of callers day by day. It's just not something that's too noisy to come through. I want a monthly number, but I will collect it every day for this month and maybe this month and last month, right? Or actually probably just from yesterday, which is always going to give me the latest number. So very, very powerful use case with that one as well. The alternative is that I collect daily, is that it's that second line where I collect daily all the time, have my numbers and go through. One, that won't work for count distinct. And then 2, if I never actually need to see it daily or weekly, and I only want to see it monthly, I'm collecting 30 times the amount of data, and I'm storing 30 times the amount of data. Many times that doesn't matter. It's okay. But as we get into larger instances, it can matter, right? We can get to the billions and billions of records in the PA scores table. And if I don't need it, I don't need it. I'd rather not do work. I don't want to store stuff I'm literally never going to see. So that monthly, daily, that 4th line, it's very powerful. Make sure you keep that in your back pocket. And then the last version, the other variant of this that we just talked about is, well, I do need to see it daily and monthly. Well, you don't have to collect it twice. Just collect it daily, treat it daily, and then we're going to apply the by month or the by month sum to see it monthly. So my frontline managers are going to be looking at that daily number, but my VP is just going to look monthly to come through, right? Again, I don't have to recollect. I don't have to do any more work on their dashboard, on their widget. I'm just going to apply that time series, and we'll be all set. All right. Looks like we have a few more questions
here. Yeah, a couple quick questions. So, is it possible to get a 45-day running sum? And then also the second part is it possible for me to add my own time series?
Yes. So we have, I think there's about 50 time series that come out of box. But we have a 28 and a 30 day, right? They come through. Well, I'm on a 45 day. So there is one more thing we can do in that area. There's a table. It's all stored in a table, PA aggregates. Should have put the table in here, the PA aggregates table. And you can edit these. There's no new button, and I actually need to go back and verify. I think we can add new ones if you get tricky about it, so we won't talk about that. You don't want this list to get too big, but you can modify them. So if I wanted to change my 30-day to a 45-day or a 60-day, right? We don't have 60-day, but I can make it 60-day. I can rename it, and then I can change the range, right? And if you see here, the range is 30. This is 30 interval day function sum. You can change these. I probably back them up, but you can change them and then that'll apply. Right now, there is no new button, but you can edit what's in there. Be careful because there are some that are invalid to come through. So it's safe to change 30 days to 45 days. But if you were going to create a new one, or you're going to change everything, there are some combinations that are not valid. And I can't think of what they are right now, but I believe there are some issues. You can put things in here that don't make sense. So make sure you're kind of basing it off of an existing one and you'll be okay. But if I wanted to just change 30 days to 45 days or 28 days to 15 days, right? I don't want a 14-day running sum. I want a 15-day running sum. they'll certainly work. The indicator exclusions is at the bottom as well. That's interesting because what you're saying there, this is what we use. And again, if you go look at these, you'll see where we're configuring them. The indicator exclusions are where we're saying this time series is not valid for this indicator. It's not valid. Do not allow it to be used, right? So again, I have like 50 choices, but some of them will not make sense. And that would be like, let's say I had a distinct count. Distinct's a good one, right? Distinct is not, you can't sum these things together. You just can't do that. So we might block out saying this indicator cannot be edited here. We see them here. It's on the indicator source where we're actually, or on the indicator where we're actually saying never let this one be applied, right? So if you know that's the case, or you know that they're nonsensical, you need to filter them out, and that just gives less choices to be applied, to be selected to come through. And I want to make another point here. A question came in about people don't want to deal with the analytics hub. I don't want to deal with the analytics hub. I treat it, and this is my personal rule, you can modify this as you want. If I have to have somebody go look in the analytics hub, I failed. I failed as a dashboard designer. So it's super powerful to have, right? Sometimes I have those one-off questions, just like we have reports, right? I want to drill in, but the analytics hub, you're only looking at one factor, right? And the real world is there's multiple things going on. So analytics hub is great. It's powerful. Not many people click on it. When we see our usage stats, it's not heavily used. You should never need to go into it, right? If you have a great dashboard, you shouldn't have to go into the analytics hub. So make sure you're putting those dashboards together. You're using the breakdowns to allow people to choose what they want to see. Using additional indicators. I really like to see additional indicators on my widget. So I'm comparing two things at once, right? The world is complicated. I don't want to see incoming, active, closed. Why don't we put those together, right? And if you pick the right, some are lines and some are bars. So you have really, really powerful graphs that can come through and really tell the full story. So that's important. Let's focus on getting the dashboard to answer the questions we know are coming in. And then we'll worry about analytics hub, right? Again, useful. I need it. If I want to see the records, I'm probably going to do that. But yeah, I totally understand. It's not intuitive to come in, right? That's a second pass. Don't rely on the analytics hub to answer a question you know is coming.
Hey, Adam. So
yeah.
a few moments ago, you were talking about whether or not there was a new button there or whatnot. Do you know if the insert and stay works on this form?
I don't recall. Maybe we'll have time to click on that. The way that I've done it in the past is that I've done an XML export. I changed the sysid in it and I import it. I have to go check. I think we opened a defect to go. We should be able to open it. Originally, we locked it down quite a bit. We didn't want anybody to do it, but I believe you can. Try that out, test it before you do it. I'm not sure if it works. You can modify them.
I don't think there is an insert and stay, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I think if there's no new, it won't. I think it won't let you do it. But if you need more, we can dig into that some more. But right, be careful. I'll tell you, if you add 100 of them, then nobody's going to know what the difference is between them. I don't actually like having the 28 and the 30 day because it's kind of like pick one as an organization. We're going to use a 28 day, and we're going to use a 30 day, or we're going to use a month. It's different. So be careful with those. I'm going to hit that one. All right, we're going to move on just a little bit because apparently I talk a lot and I'm just a little bit behind where I need to be, but we'll get on. So the next is formulas. All right, so we talked about time series. They're great, super powerful. We apply them at the widget level most often. Again, analytics hub, you can choose them, but it's the story I'm going to tell is on the dashboard and the widgets on the dashboard. Quite often, I'm going to have two tabs of the same dashboard, very similar widgets, but one's going to be the daily or the weekly, and one's going to be the monthly, right? And then everything's by month. Or my VPs is going to be by month. My line manager is going to be day and week, right? To be more tactical. So the higher I go in the org, probably the higher I'm going to go is a time aggregate. Time series and formulas. So very important. So as we're talking about time series, there's a couple key things we need to remember. So the first thing we're going to talk about is averages. I don't want to say never, but I'm going to go with never. Never collect an indicator that's an average. What we want to do to make it time series friendly is to collect two indicators, not an average indicator, but to collect a sum and a count. And then I'm going to apply a formula on top of that, just like this one, that is my sum divided by my count. Not sure why I'm dividing by 24 there. So we have our sum and our count. What this allows me to do is my sum and my count, whether I'm counting one day, it's fine, right? What's the total for today? 5. And what's the total? The total for today, 10. All right. So it's half, right? Easy. Or the duration, sorry. Oh, the duration is because that's going to be minutes. The duration here is hours. So it gives me the number of days to come through. That's the same if I sum up for a day, or sum up for 7 days and divide by 7, or I sum up 31 days and divide by 31. So almost any of the time series that I'm applying, the formula is going to work. So I can take my daily number and I can use it weekly, monthly. So if I'm going to use a formula, or if I want an average, specifically an average, this is what we want to do. If we don't do this, we're going to end up averaging averages. And averaging averages are not the same thing, right? Whether it's the total duration, I don't want the average duration for the days. I want the average duration for the month. So we want to make sure we use that sum and count. This works for most time series that you apply them. There's always some edge case that won't work. So I'm going to say most of the time it works, but make sure you take a look at that. And if you want to see some more examples of this, they're all over the place out of the box. We're doing this. There is a use case, by the way, that you do collect the average, particularly if I want to collect the records or something out there. But generally, this is what we're going to want to do. If you don't do this, you probably need to go into your indicator and block out all the time aggregates, because you don't want to allow averaging averages out there and let things blow up. But maybe you do. Maybe you do want to average averages. So there is an option. And again, sometimes it depends what you want. I cannot tell you this is right or this is wrong. If we could do that, we would just do it right. But there are different use cases. Just like sometimes you want partial periods, sometimes you don't. There's a setting on formula indicators under other, apply time series to result. And what that means is sometimes I want to run the formula, get the result, and then sum that, average that, count that. Sometimes I want to stack all the counts and the sums together and then run the formula. And a lot of times it doesn't matter, but sometimes it makes a big difference. So I want to walk through an example here. I want you all to see this. So these are the exact same numbers that come through. My number of P1s and my number of total incidents. My formula, sum P1s divided by sum total. If I do not apply to the result, what I'm doing is I'm taking 155 divided by 9,117. That's 1.7%. So my P1s for let's say this is a monthly number come through, right? I have 4 weeks in a month. We explained earlier why that's not true, but let's go with it for in this case. I have four periods, and my average P1 percentage is 1.7. The exact same numbers, when I check the box to apply to results, give me a pretty different number from here. So again, all the numbers, P1s totals, those are all the same. But when I average, at this point I'm an average. When I average those percentages that I calculated per day, I get 4% to come through, right? So 1.7 is correct and 4 is correct. Depends on your use case. They're both correct. So if you're getting one of those ones where it's not doing what you think it does, I'll tell you, whether I apply it or don't apply it, I always forget. I just check it. It's a formula. It doesn't have to we don't have to recollect anything. You just have to look at it. So if something's not doing something right in your formulas and you have time series applied, just go ahead and check that box, see if you get the right result, uncheck the box, see if you don't want to get it, if you're not getting the right thing. I believe generally you're not going to apply it, but it depends. Again, your use case, I want to point this out, that if you're not getting what you want, just go ahead and toggle that and see if then you get what you want to come through. But again, very different numbers to come through based off of the same data, because how you calculate it does matter. Okay. I had a couple links that are going to go through here. We'll put these in the article post with this. You'll see them in the deck as well. I referenced some of these. So there is a blog post that walks through some of these settings to go through. How do you apply them to widgets? We didn't talk about applying the time series to widgets, but there's some graphics in there to show you. And then also that table that I showed you that had all the different chart types, that's on there as well. It's a nice reference to go, what is it you want to see? Report ranges, there's documentation on applying the time series on report ranges. Docs tell you exactly how to do that. And then the formula indicators, the time series and the apply, don't apply, that's covered in the formula indicators overview and Now Learning. It takes a couple hours to do that. If you're getting started with formulas, I'd recommend going and taking that class. A lot of great content in Now Learning. Now Learning, if you haven't seen, Now Learning 2.0 got released. it's just much better. Everything around is much better. The content is the same and improving, and is going to get updated pretty soon for San Diego, but the search is way better. You can see what's going on. So if you haven't been in Now Learning in the last couple of weeks, I'd recommend taking a look at it. But that class has been in there for a little bit. It talks more about what we talked about with the formulas. And with that, I got back on time, and we're going to answer a few questions.
Great stuff, Adam. Really a lot of knowledge here that's going to help, a lot of people most of the people on the call, and definitely in the future when people actually search for this. So we'll see what we can get to here. So just directly relating to what you have already been speaking about. So we have been collecting daily scores for 2 years for open incidents. The business now says they want to trend displayed only for the last day of the month. They want the point in time, not the sum or average for the month of the incidents. How do we move to that perspective and retain the history and breakdowns from the daily we have been collecting for the last 2 years?
Great question. By the way, I'd still collect daily because they're going to change their mind at some point, right? I've seen this many times. Like, I want the 15th of the month. Okay. I want the 1st of the month. Okay. I want the last of the month. Okay. Daily's good. Keep your daily number. We can do that with a formula. So there's the PA utils, and I know we did a session on this one before too. Advanced formula stuff. I don't know if we covered it in 2020 or 2021. The functionality came out in Madrid. It's pretty okay to implement just for 1 month. I will tell you there's some tricks if you want to make it time series aware, because if it gets a little complicated when you're like, I need to pick out the last day of the week. I need to pick the last day of the month. I need to pick the last day of the quarter. It can be done, but there's a little bit more to do. But if you're going to put in I want the last day of the month, you can create a formula indicator, which the way that I do this is we use the PA utils in the formula, which is a JavaScript library you can call in there. It's going to take the scores that I believe the methodology I use for this is that it just gets the last day of the month for every day. So it's actually going to do a daily score of every day is whatever the last day is. So you just get a line, you get a block for every month. That sometimes works. And then what I'll do is I'll apply the time series of average by month or average by month plus. Well, if every day of the month has the same score, then the average is that last day of the month, right? So what we get is the by month, and it's just showing you the last day of the score. So absolutely doable. Again, we can find the like advanced formulas, I think is what the session was. You can take a look at that one, and if that doesn't help, post a question in the community. Tag Thomas, he'll answer. And we'll go through how to do this. But it's very doable. It's normal to do. A little bit to put in. It's not just checking a box, but it's not much more than that. Pretty standard thing to do in there.
Yeah, and there was an academy on advanced formula and indicators, so it's out there. Definitely, we'll attach that to this event. Another one came in directly related to this content. How does show records interact with time series and Analytics Hub?
I believe what it does is not exactly how you think it would work. And I do not know if this is different between Analytics Hub and KPI details and Next Experience. I believe what it does is that it shows you the last date that comes in. So this is not, I didn't check this yesterday, but I believe what happens if I had like a by-month sum, it's actually just going to show you the last day that comes through. So the show records is a bit iffy on that. I can verify that. This is a discussion I know I've had in a while, but I don't recall if we changed the behavior of this or not to come through. So I believe what the answer is just showing you the last day's scores, but we'd have to take a look at it.
Okay, great. Last one we have is, it kind of goes back to how much you talked about performance early on, not necessarily related, but PA definitely, and if we're limited on time, we can see. So PA definitely helps with performance. However, we seem to take a performance hit when we start using breakdown sources filtering on dashboards with PA widgets. So not necessarily related, but we have some time here if you want to speak to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was encouraged. It's fair game. I'm open for it because I said use breakdown sources. So the issue for that, almost every time, it's that your breakdown source has too many values, that it takes a long time. So the couple things that I want to make sure you do is the order matters. So the breakdown source, put the first one at the top. That's the smallest set. And we really see this if we see like assignment groups and it's going to list 30,000 assignment groups, that's a problem. The performance does take a hit there. So make sure your breakdown source is no bigger than you need it to be. So I might do my breakdown source as, I might use the type to filter it out, but I want to make sure it's ITIL breakdown assignment groups. I might make sure it's active ITIL assignment groups. And I might even do where the assignment group was used in the last 60 days to come through, or the assignment groups managers in my department. Do something, whatever you can. And sometimes you can't, but do what you can to make those breakdown sources include only the data you want to see. And if you get that smaller, it's going to be better. So a breakdown source on priority, it's fine. Like you won't even notice it, but a breakdown source on assigned to, absolutely, we see it slow down. So I definitely do this on a workbench widget. I definitely do it in Analytics Hub. Make sure that the order on an indicator, when you add the breakdowns, there's an order field. Whenever possible, and it's not always possible, whenever possible, make sure that the breakdown number one, the first one, the lowest order, is the smallest one it can be, right? Or just the smallest it can be. So that might be state. If I'm going to break down by assignment group and state, make sure the order is state and assignment group, not assignment group and state. That will help. Outside of that, there might be some other things that come through. It does have to run the query for the breakdown source. So if the query to get the breakdown source takes 10 seconds, then it takes 10 seconds. It's not cached. It's just going to come back with that. So what's in the breakdown source is what's slowing down your dashboard. I'm going to say 9 times out of 10. There could be something else, but that's definitely what I gravitate to. Without knowing the details, that's what I would say it is.
Okay. There's one more, but because of time, I don't know if we want to.
Well, I will. Yeah, I see the one about the database sharding and metrics. So we're saying capturing metrics. I am just going to guess here that we're talking about indicators and not metrics. Metrics are something else in the instance. And I believe we didn't used to support rotated tables. So database sharding. There's actually a couple different ways of sharding a table. So I don't know the details on this one, but the common one was events. It was event management that came through. It was rotated, and then the rotated tables have this problem. I believe we fixed that in Paris. So if not, you can ask a question in the community. You can put a case in if you want as well, but I believe we do now support indicators on rotated tables. If not, there is a workaround for that. But let's just see if it works first, and then we can decide if that workaround is needed. The workaround is just extra work to do, and I don't want to do a workaround if it works now. It did have an issue before.
Okay, great.
All right.
And Tara, I think Paul is talking directly, so maybe if you can type that out. So based on time here, we got about a minute. So Adam, thank you. Great stuff as usual. A lot of great content, detailed. This will definitely be great for anybody looking for this type of information in the community. So thank you for that. So real quick, so this information will be out on the Platform Analytics Academy community page, along with any of the previous sessions. We have kind of changed that up a little bit because it was scrolling very long because of all the content that we had. So now you can actually look at that by year, but this is exactly where it'll be. Of course, it'll be out on YouTube as well. Check out the community page itself as a whole. There's a lot of great content out there that can help you from getting started to hitting the ground running, training, essential training, the power of the community, just really good information there if you're not familiar with that. Always remember, Now Learning, it does now have a new look. It does look a little bit different, and it's better. So here you can see what it looks like on the left, and definitely go in there and just search for analytics, and you'll see lots of good training that comes back, some on demand, and some that there's definitely some that's free in there as well. The certifications that you can get as well, all that's in there. Just search on analytics, and you can see here in that link. Other great Academy sessions that are out there: Platform Foundations, Mobile App, and Virtual Agent. So if those are things that you need to get some information about or you're familiar with, go and check those out as well. Those links are there. Always like to show this one. So if you're going to ask a question in the community, this is a really great article that can give you some really good ideas on how to ask that question to make sure that it does get answered. It's not just us ServiceNow employees that answer questions there. There are gurus from other companies that are very knowledgeable that actually answer questions as well. But asking a great question always helps with that. So our next session in 2 weeks will be intro into benchmarks on February the 9th. So we look forward to seeing everyone then. And as usual, thank you. This will be up by the end of the day. Thank you. Have a great day.